Insider presents Geek Speak with Matthew Harris and Meredith Loughlin. We cover entertainment, news, and tech with special guest appearances. So sit back and enjoy as we geek out together right now.
Hello, everybody. This is Meredith Loughlin with my special host, Matthew Harris. He is back. We have special guests today, Jordana Brewster and Baruchel. I hope I said your name right. And we're going to be talking about their movie, which is coming out exclusively on Shudder on August 20th, and that is Random Acts of Violence. So let's just pull down this card here and say hello.
Hi there. Guys, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Now, you guys are on opposite coasts, so it was interesting trying to get you guys coordinated for a quick interview.
Oh, yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah, I guess it's on the early end for you, Jordan.
It's all good. I've been up for like 5 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
Early rising.
You're a morning person. Oh, my gosh.
I am.
She has no choice, I suspect.
You know, one of the things that I was talking to Matthew about was I said, Jay, you're probably frustrated when you're doing a panel with Jordana because everybody's like, oh, we want to talk to her,
Absolutely fine by me. Please let her do the heavy lifting every time.
No,
Fine with me.
Well, Jay, why don't you tell us about the movie? Tell the audience, what is this Random Acts of Violence? What's the premise? And because this is your baby. I mean, you wrote, directed, and the whole night starred in it.
Starred in it. That must be exhausting.
Yeah. My performance is the one I enjoy the least. Listen, nothing's free in this world. No, so Random Acts of Violence is it's about this guy, Todd, who writes and draws a comic book called Slasher Man, which is inspired by sort of series of true crimes that happened in the past, in the 80s, in the world of this movie. And Todd's girlfriend, Kathy, is basically in the process of putting together a book, a true crime sort of more kind of victim-focused book about the killings, whereas Todd's comic book is very exploitative and super gory. And when we meet him, he's kind of tired of it and is trying to find a way to end his comic in a satisfactory way. And while this is happening, they're on a road trip from Toronto down to New York for Comic-Con. And as they make sort of stops along the way, people start getting killed in a fashion very similar to the way his killer, Slasher Man, kills in the comic book. And then whatever the exact opposite of hilarity is, that's what ensues.
Now, you've been working on this since, well, you said about 7 years, but you co-wrote this with a high school buddy. Is that correct?
Indeed, yeah. Jesse and I have known each other since grade 10. And we come by our horror fandom pretty honestly, and together, because we were kind of watching the same movies as kids and making horror movies on the weekends in high school and reading every issue of Fangoria and all that stuff. So it's actually, now that it's coming out, this will mark 10 years from our first iteration of the first treatment of Random Acts. So it's died a bunch of deaths along the way, and then somehow I was able to convince Jordana and Jesse and a few other people that this is not going to be a waste of their time. And yeah, we made a crazy movie. Now it's finally coming out.
So I have a question.
I remember having to fight pretty hard to get it.
Oh boy. So
it was an easy decision for me. Let's leave it out. But I'm very, very happy of how it turned out.
The he said, she said on Geek Speak. Now, Jordana, Are you into horror? I mean, do you love watching them, reading it? And I also noticed the comic book connection, obviously, for this movie. I mean, are those things that you're into?
I am in. I think it's really fun acting in horror because there's nothing more. I don't know. It's just very raw and visceral and really, really cathartic. But it was actually a very different experience with Jay because there was also a lot of. I think it was very different because Jay's obviously primarily an actor, and so he gave us room to play, which I wasn't used to. I thought I'd get on set and it would all be, super planned out because we were working on with a tight budget, and I thought Jay would be like super anal about certain things and worried, and he was kind of like, yeah, let's play, let's figure it out. Like, here's the script, but like I'm not married to it. And remember the scenes in the motel and how much fun those were to shoot, and how you let us just kind of go. Like that was really fun.
Oh, cool. Good.
To be able to have that experience. And so there was just this, Jay was extremely relaxed on set, which I think sort of bled through everyone else. No pun intended. So yeah, it was an awesome set to be on. And I think that's where creativity can sort of reign, is when you're not nervous and uptight and worried about the outcome. You just kind of let things flow.
Well, that's super cool.
That's what it felt like.
Oh, that's so cool to hear because, like, these characters for the better part of a decade were just on paper. And when I finally found them as humans, I think I said it pretty early on. I was like, you guys are the boss of your character now. And I encourage you, I really want you to push back. If I'm telling you, if I or the script is telling you something that doesn't feel like something that your character would do, I want you to tell me, and let's figure out what it would be, because you're now the stewards of these characters, and what a cool writing tool that no longer are they just sort of spirits that I'm kind of imbuing the page with. They're now actually they have decisions and imperfections and impulses and all these great things. And so there's like, one of the things I'm most proud of in this movie is the performances, specifically the scene Jordana just mentioned. Is a really, really strong, I think, argument in a motel room between Jordana and Jesse. And I think it's like incredibly, incredibly truthful. And that's because I think we just like ripped away everything that Jesse and I put in there, my Jesse and I put in there. And we're just like, here, guys, here's the kind of emotional thrust of the thing. This is what I think you give a shit about. This is what you give a shit about. This is where ideally we want to end up. Beyond that, let's just find the most honest way to get there. And because it kind of, thank you. Yeah, I think, well, because I think like if the more accessible and authentic the relationships are on screen, the more people kind of let their guard down without realizing it, the more they're just kind of hanging out with people. Right. And then as shit starts to hit the fan, I suspect it would, in theory, it should land way harder.
Yeah. Well, I just want to pop this in real quickly because there you are, kind of sitting back with a beer, but then here you are putting on your other hat, where you're obviously directing and, so that must be really difficult for you because you're popping in front of the camera, you're behind the camera, and then you've got all of these things. It's all of these different hats, very different, very dynamic hats.
Yeah.
How do you separate that and then stay in character?
Yeah. I don't know. I like, I'll say my interest in directing is certainly not a function of my interest in acting. And I like, for whatever reason, people still know who I am, so I can help a movie get going, a little small movie like this, by being in it. So I'll do that. But like, yeah, I hated it. The most fun was like getting to sit at the monitor with my cinematographer Kareem Hussein and then jump into the moment with the guys, with Jordana and Jesse, and mess about with them and then go back and see what we create. Like that's the most fun. That's the stuff I adore. When I was also in the thing, like there are shots in that movie where we're the four of us are in the car and like I'm in the back seat. It looks like I'm just looking off, but I'm not. There's a monitor at my feet and so there's a lot of guys who are just like in the back seat looking down and it's just me trying to make sure the shot looks okay. But the hardest part, by far the hardest part, is sitting in this room. This is where we cut it. Sitting in this room with my editor, Andrew, God bless him, poor long-suffering Andrew, and having to like hear and be like, all right, so that bit where my mouth was closed for a sec, let's go with that. And where do you think I was cooler? Is that the bit, like, is that a cool way to sit? Is that my hands look okay? Like, humiliating and it very, very humbling. Let me tell you, whatever semblance of an ego you might have is utterly eviscerated by having to watch rushes and dailies of yourself and then fashion them into a performance that people might want to watch in a movie. But like, so to answer your actual question, it was sort of like, I didn't really have a choice. It is what it is. It's just like, sometimes you get to the grocery store and you buy more shit than you can actually carry home and realize you don't have a car and you just like, well, fuck, like, I'm in it now, so I just gotta fucking figure out a way to do it.
Dude, I can't imagine anyone else as Ezra. I really can't.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. That's very nice of you to say.
Seriously. And no one knew.
And so we didn't get it.
So.
We haven't had a chance to watch it yet. We just got the screener this morning.
I did.
What?
But I'm not going to say anything. I am going to play the trailer for you guys so everybody who's watching can see what this is about. You have a really good idea and the sense of like the dynamics and
it makes you want to watch it.
All the goodies are coming. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Shudder because they did give us some permission to play this trailer. So let's do that right now.
Tonight we have a 1-hour special treat lined up for you as I'm joined by none other than Todd Walkley, brainchild behind one of the most successful R-rated comic books ever, Slasher Man.
Slasher Man's like my life. I find it inspiring.
I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't found my ending yet.
This is a road trip that will be really fun and really informative.
We are staying in all motels. They're all rural and they're all real.
I didn't know a place like this still existed. Is any of this getting your creative juices flowing?
This could be the scene of a massacre, yes.
Guys, we are in the middle of nowhere. We need to figure this out. Oh my god, what the fuck is going on?
Is there a concern that Slasher Man could push the already unstable over the edge into violence?
I've done, 1,000 kills? Once in a while, one of them might match up with something that happens in this country.
We need to call the cops.
And tell them what? That it's a killer running around recreating murders from my comics?
What is it?
Oh my god. Todd drew this.
He needs to go away soon. Don't kill us.
I can't wait to show you.
Who comes up with this stuff?
It's a good film.
Very good film. I love it. Oh, Jordana, where are you, Jordana? No, going to the trailer though. I have goosebumps all over because there's a certain amount of reality in there that makes it like, I think that's the thing that scares me the most is that, holy shit, that can happen. That can happen to any of us, you know?
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Jordana, you might want to refresh and come back in.
Yeah. But that was just like one of the things that I love about horror is done well is when you can feel like that could happen to me, and holy crap. And, and then you're looking over your shoulder and stuff like that. And you're like, I don't want to be on that lonely road in rural country. And by the way, I have seen stores that look like that.
Yeah. There's a few of them left.
Oh my goodness.
That's the goal, I think, is I don't know. For me, I think that there's nothing scarier than people and ourselves, others and us. I think like the only thing possibly scarier than somebody else out there is looking inside yourself and not being psyched about what you find and unpack. Mm-hmm. And this movie kind of tries to play with both of those ideas. And I think like people are far scarier than monsters. And and when you make a person into a monster, I think you kind of you cut away responsibility, and it makes it easier to process. And I think that remembering how human a killer is and how human his victim is, that's the key to something interesting and impactful, I think.
Mm-hmm. Now, as the co-writer of this,
Jordana's camera.
Yeah, it was so fabulous. I think we can hear you though, Jordana.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know.
We can hear you.
It on and off, but for some reason it's not. I don't know. Strange.
It's so weird.
It is so weird. I hadn't seen that trailer, and it's so good.
It is.
Yeah, isn't it? That's what I was saying. It when I first saw it, I am a horror lover, and I also like unique stories, and that's why we are the big fans of the indie companies, the indie writers, the indie film companies. We have a growing relationship with Full Moon Entertainment or Features, and we just love those. And so when I first saw the trailer, I was like, okay, score. That is definitely something I want. And I wanted to see it over the weekend so that I could, have it in my mind. Cause I know we can't talk too much about it. We don't want to ruin it. And we just want people to tune in on Shudder. And that was the 20th, right? That it released.
Yeah, August 20th, I think,
No, but it had a Canadian release beforehand. It's already out. I'm like, Canada.
It came out on Friday up here, and so just a few days ago, and we did a fun drive-in screening outside of Toronto, like on Wednesday night. Oh, it was so cool! It was so neat because I think, like myself included, pretty much everyone there that night, it was their first time being out and about since March, and so and what was really encouraging is it was drive-in, so it was outdoors, but everybody was still wearing masks but everybody was still having a good time and happy to be there and happy to kind of watch this kind of movie. And what was really cool is it's like I'd never been to a drive-in ever because I was a city kid and we didn't have a car, and so if it wasn't on public transit, then I wasn't going to go. And so seeing. I've been led to believe that seeing a slasher film at a drive-in is like a North American tradition, and so I'm really happy that my first one was one that I actually directed.
Yeah, that's too cool.
I love drive-ins. I remember them from my childhood, and the thing is, the only thing that was the negative I think about drive-ins were the bats, because we were out there in the middle of the night and the bats are flying around and stuff. But I mean, to see this in a drive-in is definitely on my wish list, only because I would want to be the asshole who got dressed up as the man and went scaring people in the cars. That's just me. I think that's a good time.
Well, see, and one of my fondest memories is I had actually won tickets to go see Clint Eastwood's Bronco Billy, but it had also that weekend, Friday the 13th, the original one, had came out. My mom knew I loved horror, and she was like, okay, do you want to go see this Bronco Billy, or do you want to go see the Friday the 13th at the drive-in? I was like, Friday the 13th. Well, I get up on top of the car, and eventually they made me get inside because every time something scary would go on, I'd move and it'd make the tin pop and scare the shit out of them. So, yeah, seeing it at a drive-in, man, like I said, I'm a horror fan, and that is the way that this should be seen. And in fact, I've got a projector that I haven't used yet, and I may just have to hook it up to watch this one myself, because
that's amazing. It certainly lends itself to that format, I found.
Yeah.
So now, sorry, go ahead, Matthew.
I was just going to ask Jordana, how was it? Well, first off, where did y'all film at?
We were in Toronto.
Yeah, we were. I'll help just because there's her knowledge of the small towns an hour and a half away from Toronto suffered.
Where were we when we were shooting like 2 hours outside of Toronto?
Yeah, so basically we filmed in Toronto and Hamilton, Ontario, and then most of it, though, the movie was really shot in earnest out in the boonies, a place called Haldimand County, and a town called Lindsay, and a town called Bethany. And Bethany is where the creepy gas station is. Lindsay is where the motel is and all that stuff, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, yeah, so we're all within sort of Toronto or an hour and a half away.
But what was cool about that was, like, I don't remember, you almost have to shoot outside of a city to sort of have the camp-like vibe when you're shooting a movie, because I don't remember that since back in the day when I shot The Faculty, and we were all like in Austin, Texas, and we all had to hang out, and we all had to go outside to go out to dinner, and it was lovely because it lent itself to this very again, it was like we were all at camp, and
that's exactly it. And that's kind of the spirit I want on, like, it should always be a version of playing cops and robbers in the backyard, and I think that like
right
everyone shows up with a fun spirit and an appetite to kind of create and find some interesting stuff, like, and that applies to any subject matter, no matter how dark and bleak and heavy it is. I think you have to show up with a sense of fun and imagination, and I think the work's always better for it.
And you had sort of a no asshole policy, it felt like the hair and makeup department, like everyone was so cool and everyone was so invested and everyone was so creative, and it was just a really fun set to be on.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. That's a lovely thing. I wanted everybody to see their fingerprints on the final product.
Mm-hmm.
Jordana, had you ever worked in Canada before this movie?
No, isn't that so weird? Like,
that is very weird.
Yeah,
Wait,
I know.
really? Crazy.
I've been at this for a while, but no, it was the first time.
How did you?
I wanted to ask about the man, though. What was it like working with Simon Northwood? Because he seems like, and maybe it's Hollywood magic or anything, but he seems like really imposing and scary. I mean,
he's a big boy.
Yeah. You got the cardboard cutout behind you, which is like, I need that in my life.
I can speak to what it's like directing him, and then maybe Jordana can tell you what it's like acting with him.
Being like with him.
He's a lovely, lovely, soft-spoken guy, and he is like a veteran stunt performer and a martial artist, and was like, he was fighting for money as recently, like he was like doing the circuit down in the States and prize fighting like as recently as like 8-10 years ago, something like that. But anyway, he's the real deal. He's a rough dude, but he's super, super nice. And we found him at the 11th hour as well. Like I don't know if Jordana even knows this, but like, as we were building this movie, we kept being unable to find our villain. And as is often the case in movies, you think there's one thing it's supposed to be, and then that thing goes away. And this kept happening. And all of a sudden we were literally we started shooting on a Monday, like you usually do. The Thursday before, we still hadn't found our killer, and so we were planning like, okay, so we're going to start shooting just with a double, stunt double in the mask. Well, great. Well, who's the double doubling? How are we going to hire a double? The double, like that doesn't, And so I asked our stunt coordinator Blair, of the guys that you like to work with, does any of them feel like reading for a movie? And he was like, there's 3 guys who are really good. and that I would recommend. I was like, all right, let's see them if they want to. He's like, one of them's injured, so he's out of commission. I was like, okay, so let's see the other two. He's like, one of them thinks it's too much. It's too much work. It's too many words, and it's outside his comfort zone. I was like, okay. So then the last guy was Simon Northwood, and he, at the 11th hour, gave the best audition I'd seen the entire time. And he was so psyched and hardworking and proud to be there. And he was, for him, I think, like, a lot of shit, if he had dialogue, it was often like, freeze or write this way, sir, or something like that. And so he was like really proud and happy to get to kind of do something. And I think he absolutely destroys it in this movie. And for me also, as a safety concern, I now have a bona fide stunt veteran in the action with my actors. So while he's killing them or doing whatever he's doing to them, he's also being mindful of their safety. Like, there's a ton of times where like, yeah, I could breathe a bit easier because I knew it was Simon handling them. And he always kind of had their back in a big way. So even if he was acting, he was also doing stunt duty on the thing too.
And that's a big deal, because I've worked with a couple crazies that are like, oh, I'm so in character that I'm just gonna, and you're just like, dude, no, you're crushing me. Like, stop.
Right.
Can I ask Jay a question?
Of course.
Because I'm working on like writing stuff, and I'm so easily discouraged that I can't believe you were at this for 10 fucking years, and that even by like week 1 into shooting, you still didn't have your villain. Like, what kept you going, and what made you not go like,
Good
no,
question.
this is too much? Like,
oh, hey,
I'm inspired by that.
Oh, thank you. At a certain point, I adored the thing, and from that point on, that did the heavy lifting for me, and I just kind of like, and it started out super kind of potboilery, like it was just an assignment. Jesse and I pitched because we were trying to build a name for ourselves, and we found some people who were interested, and so we were hired to write a thing, and we did, but in writing it and rewriting it and trying to get it made and having opportunities come and evaporate, at a certain point, it stopped being an assignment, and we saw our blood was in there. It was like another limb kind of blossomed, and so there were a million different times where we were both equally kind of discouraged. We gave up plenty of times. Gave up while we were writing the thing. Gave up when money came and then went away. Gave up when people showed interest, and then we ultimately realized they saw a different movie than we did. And so it was always this, basically, simple kind of metric that if thing is going to happen, it has to happen this way, and if not, I'd rather it not happen, because not every song needs to be written, not every movie needs to be made, and I'm now there's an inherent sort of we would both rather just do something else than not do it the right way, and we also just kind of like, yeah, super simple. We just believed in it. Super hokey, but like I loved the thing and thought what we were kind of doing was worth doing, and that kind of never went away.
I love that creative integrity, because a lot of times you have a project and you're like, I just want to make it. I don't care what happens. Yeah. And so that really speaks volumes. That speaks to my heart. Because I love
because you inevitably have to narrow or alter or minimize your vision. Like, that's just the here's the thing I want, here's people that can help me make it, and we're going to probably, however, there's got to be some sort of deal breakers. There's some stuff that would negate the purpose of creating it in the first place, right? And so you're right. When you're fighting, especially if you're making a movie that doesn't have the Harry Potter or Avengers or Star Wars in the title, you have to fucking find a way to get it going. But then you get to that point and you realize that, like, you make a decision. Can I keep up can I play 3-card Monty with this person and tell them I'm making Shaun of the Dead while I'm actually making Texas Chainsaw? And can I, and you read great stories about like Michael Cimino taking the canisters of film and keeping them in his car and not letting LA see what Deer Hunter looked like, and great, fine, that's true. But wouldn't it be better to make a movie with somebody who wants to make the same fucking movies?
Right.
So,
concept.
So, that's that.
And Jay, do you have any other stories that are cooking in your head that you're trying to get going?
Oh, fuck yeah. Always. It's always feast or famine. And so I think you kind of have to always have a few different ones. Now, that doesn't mean you have an idea for the sake of having an idea. Right. But what I'm saying is if there's something that I think about and I think, oh, this could be a cool thing, I'm going to put some time and love into it. And then I might have another one of those. And then a friend of mine might be like, oh, hey, I think this might be something. Do you think this could be something? And then all of a sudden there's 3 little kind of things that are like of varying degrees of maturation. And the hope is one of those, if not all of them, get to critical mass and you get to go do it again. And so yeah, there's like, I'll put it this way, like if somehow like, a modern day equivalent of Howard Hughes came to me and was like, here's $100 million to do whatever you want with, I know exactly the 10 movies I would make. Like, so yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Would you approach it the same way you did this one?
Hold on, Matthew. I know that we're at the 31-minute mark, and I know you guys have precious time and stuff. I don't know if you're on a circuit. If you can stay, great. If you've got to go, we understand.
I think I could manage like 10 minutes if that's okay.
Jordana, how about you?
Yes, I have to, this is so nerdy, but I have to log my son back onto a Zoom because he's in a Minecraft camp and the little fucker logged himself out. I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. And I'm just going to, and my camera's still not working, but I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'll be right back.
So then great. We can ask this question. If, you do get the green light for your next movie, would you approach it the same way of acting in it, producing it, directing it and all of that? Or would you take a seat back?
Everything except for the acting. If I never acted in one of my movies ever again, I would be a very happy person. For a few reasons. Most importantly, I don't enjoy it, and I think inevitably one has to take priority over the other, and I don't like that. Yeah, there are going to be moments where my focus will inherently be split, and I'll be doing the best I can. But so if I had my druthers, yeah, I would do all of the rest of it though, because because especially like small movies like this have to happen. If they're going to happen, they have to have somebody willing to risk everything. A small movie can only happen if it's someone's baby, and like what I mean is, am I willing to mortgage my house? and so that and with any small business, right? And you start a sandwich shop or you get a Subway franchise, like you're probably going to be wearing a few hats until the thing gets up and running, right? So a movie is a small business, and so sometimes the path of least resistance is just for me to do it.
I like that.
How involved were you in finding the different sets, being that you had such a small budget? I mean, were you out on the road going, yeah, this is what I have in my head? Yeah, like we had our sort of production designer, Michelle Landon, and our locations manager would sort of start sending us stuff. But it was based on kind of, first, so what kind of, here's the script. Oh, wait, we read it. We think it's this. Is that what you're thinking? Well, I'm thinking it's more this. And then production designer Michelle comes in and is like, okay, actually the coolest thing would be this. All right, now let's find a bunch of things that could maybe be that. And so ideally you want a bunch of options for each place. But then also sometimes the requirements of what you need will just trump anything else. So for example, like there's a lot of fire towards the latter part of this film. And that was very simple, like,
who's going to let us burn their fucking house down? And like, we found this beautiful like 19th century Victorian home out in the country in farmland and lovingly maintained and they're like, yeah, we got permission. I was like,
to burn it down?
Yeah, you like, they know the thing they're giving us permission for. Like, we want to light the entirety of their living room on fire. They understand that, right? Because I'm like, and I don't get me wrong, I love the house. I want this. We need this fucking set. But I'm also like, this is a beautiful house. Like,
Jordana, did you know that?
Well, I remember even the day of, I feel like Jay was still like, yeah, are we sure? You sure? Right? Like, it was just. Yeah.
I didn't believe it because I wouldn't let them do it to my house. So I was like so honored and like touched and happy that they would. Like,
weren't they visiting too? Wasn't it super awkward when they would like come by?
Yes, they were around to a degree. Yeah. And,
oh my God.
And what was amazing was the firemen. So when you do fire, you have to have like firefighters on set. And I was like, tell me the temperature that we can't get past in this room. And I was like, you're the only guy on my set that can say cut before me. So you guys, you see something that's like, there is no movie on earth that is worth a second of anyone being in actual harm. So the second that we're even close to there, you guys just pull the plug. I don't give a fuck if it spoils the shot. I was like, what's that temperature? He's like, well, man, that's not really, he goes, it's hard to say. I was like, really? He goes, because it's an old house. He goes, I'll be honest, I don't know what's in those walls. I really don't know what's in those walls, and we're not going to like take a sledgehammer to knock them down to see what's in there. So we're going to kind of just guess it a bit. And so the firemen were like, we're going to be on the safe side and call it a bit earlier than we might normally, just because who the fuck knows what might be in there. Anyway, so yeah. So finding locations is one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. I adore it.
Yeah, Christian Basil, my good friend from the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show, is tuning in. He says, sometimes you have to burn the place to get the insurance money to pay the mortgage.
Yeah, usually I think that's supposed to be unknown origins, not, hey, come on in, Jay, you can burn.
Usually there isn't a very clear paper trail.
I did want to ask Jordana a question while we still have you, and that is, you've been in movies where you're all glammed up and stuff, and in this one you are clearly not. I mean, you're like like blood and guts and stuff like that. I mean, what was that like?
It's really liberating when you don't have to be, when it's just like this. I love the blood and I love the dirty hair and I love I was about to say I love being manhandled. That sounded really bad.
That's exclusive.
But there's something really, it's really fun and it is really liberating and I also really enjoyed playing her because whereas in most horror films I'm like the damsel in distress and it's so fucking boring. In this one I felt like I just had my own thing and it was just,
you were a very empowered, strong character,
intellectual, and I kind of didn't agree with what he was doing, and I kind of felt like he was kind of a doofus, although I wasn't showing my hand, and so it was a really fun journey to go on. But no, the more blood, the better to me.
All right. Now we are coming up on the end of the show, guys, and there's something that we always ask every guest, and Jordana, will start with you. If you could travel back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would you do? What would you say?
I would say chill out. I've always been like way too high strung and way too nervous, and at 40 I've finally relaxed a bit, and I wish I could have learned that lesson at like 25.
I got you. What about you, Jay?
It would be a similar thing. Yeah, the same thing. That's like getting, I'm 38 and the story of growing up for me has been the story of realizing, distilling my true priorities down to what they actually are, instead of being worried about, everything and then some. I had a tendency to be quite a worrywart, and I had bad anxiety my whole life, and pretty much the only 12-year-old insomniac I knew. And so if I could, I would go back and be like, yeah, you can breathe, but also know that you do the thing, that you get there. It's okay, because that was part of the thing, was a paralyzing fear that I'd never get to become the man that I'd hoped I would be, and blah blah blah, and all these sort of shit that I really care about, and always worry that something would step on that or whatever. And so I'd be like, breathe easy and know that you'll get there. It's all good.
Mm-hmm. Well, we could definitely sit and talk with you both, just because you've had such a long dynamic career, both of you, really interesting life paths and things like that. 40 minutes is definitely not enough, but we are going to end the live stream here. If you two can hang out for a little bit, we're just going to do our little intro. And again, everybody, if you are watching, Random Acts of Violence is available exclusively on Shudder, and that is going to be available to the US, UK, and Ireland on August 20th. It is available right now in Canada, because Canada is special like that, I guess. I don't know.
It's a Canadian movie. It's a Canadian movie.
No, okay. Gotcha. So Jay has some pull there. All right.
Thanks everybody for tuning in, and of course, thank you, Jay and Jordana. It was fantastic. And anytime you guys have something to promote, think of us. We'd love to talk with you again. And y'all hang out for just a minute. We'll wrap this up.
All right. You want to hit the button?
I'm looking for it. You move stuff around on me.
I appreciate you guys for taking the time, and everybody who is watching, thank you. At Geek Insider, we foster relationships with those in the geek sphere, so we can give our audience the insider view of entertainment, tech, and more.